Hi everyone, I'm Sheila Judkins. I'm the Director of Brand Marketing on The Sims, and I've been invited by GamesIndustry.biz to talk to you today about The Sims Sparked, tell you a little bit more about how this came to be, and share my experience and thoughts on how we adapted a video game into a TV show. A quick introduction. I'm the Director of Brand Marketing. My background is in brand marketing. I grew up at Hasbro in the toy industry. But I've always been interested in video games, and I've always personally gravitated towards brands that have more meaning and additional benefit to people. So at Hasbro, I really loved Play School and Play-Doh because they were about fine and gross motor skill development for little ones. And The Sims is really all about emotional development and empowerment and escape and entertainment for all ages, but specifically teens who are really figuring out how they want to show up in this world, who they want to be, and are exploring the possibilities. And so the fact that The Sims is this place where they can play with life is just really inspiring to me. Before I jump into the presentation, I just want to share that this project was an incredible team effort by many cross-functional partners at EA, and I'm really honored to be representing the larger Sims team today. The questions, the topics that I was asked to cover are: how did Sparked come to be? Tell you a little bit more about the show and challenge program overview, talk about translating a video game into a TV show, what do we think about in terms of brand and audience, and then any advice I can share for other developers, publishers, IP holders on how they can identify opportunities like this, or advice I would give to TV and film companies as to what they should look for and be open to when it comes to adapting video games, and why I personally believe there's such big potential in this. So let's start with Sparked. For 20 years, The Sims has been a place where people from all walks of life have come to express themselves, experiment with new ideas, and feel safe enough to find their true voice. Like the self-conscious teen who designs bold, wildly colorful outfits they'd be too shy to wear to school, or the gay couple who, judged by their small town community, builds a world where they finally feel like they can belong. Unlike the world we so often experience, nothing here is black and white. Instead, players are given a colorful canvas to create the entire spectrum of identity and experience. As a result, the stories told in the game are as diverse and creative as the people who tell them. From the incredibly imaginative that bring their wildest daydreams to life, to the deeply personal that help us to appreciate everyone's individual journey. It's time to give these millions of creators the chance to share their stories and creativity with the world in a reality competition where the only limit to what you can become is your own imagination. This is Sparked. So, as you can see, this is how we evolved the brand to this entertainment concept. And it was really, really focusing on our player and our player community. And so this project actually had a very, very long lead time thinking about our players and also the internal capabilities of EA. So on the Sims team, we listen intently to our players every day, from the social channels to our Game Changers program. And we've been hearing the players wanted more challenge. And so much of the Sims is about telling personal stories. And so this really led us to this reality competition format that focuses on individual storytelling and puts some challenges around that. The Sims is traditionally a single player game. And so inevitably, when you ask people to team up and do something different, there'll be these interesting moments of conflict and trying to work together as a team, collaborate and agree or disagree on a decision. And we see that in other reality competition shows that, that's a key ingredient in making entertainment in reality competition. So it was something we really thought a lot about. And then on the other side, looking at the capabilities of the company, we have an amazing broadcast center on campus that creates esports entertainment for all of EA's brands. And our Sims team has experience with bringing these game changers, these close group of players we work with, onto our campus and host different events with them. So while filming entertainment was a new space for us, we already had some confidence in the operational ability to create and develop something like this. We also called in experts from reality television to help us and be a part of this, help guide us and point out our blind spots. And so I think this right here is always a really tricky question when you think about core competencies. Do you outsource the new and risky thing and put the trust into someone who's got more experience than you in the area? Or do you own it because you want more oversight of how the brand or the game or the product is represented, and because you want the teams to test and learn and grow? And so in this case, I'm very, very glad that we produced the show in-house, because it was an incredible learning experience for all of us. And I think it's really, we've just learned a lot about how we want to continue to optimize and evolve this. So the show, let me tell you about the show. The show is a four episode reality competition series. We've put the players into 4 different teams. Now, there's no wrong way to play with The Sims, but people tend to have to select into these 3 different categories: a stylist, a builder, or a storyteller. You see it a lot with our Sims influencers. And so we put the players into these categories onto 4 different teams, so that every team had a stylist, a builder, and a storyteller. And then we give them challenges where everything is thematically based to time based. And at the end of every episode, a team had to go home. The prize was $100,000 and the title of Top Simmer. And these were never done before interactive challenges. The host and judges. So what we did here is we knew we wanted our fans to love the show and our current players to like the show, but we also wanted to make sure that we were putting people who had awareness outside of the Sims community. And so we're really happy with where we landed with our host and judges. We have Rayvon Owen as our host. He's a former American Idol finalist. He's a singer. He's super charismatic and high energy, and he did a great job hosting the show. One of our judges was Kelsey and Peachy K from BuzzFeed Multiplayer. She's very well known for her 100 Baby Challenge, super bubbly and positive, and I think you'll see her great personality come through in the show. Taylor Parks, who's an unbelievable storyteller, singer-songwriter, super talented, and has written songs for everyone, many people that you know and don't know, and including Ariana Grande. And then Dave Motke, who is our hard critic. And Dave is actually in our game development studio. He's been on The Sims for 15 years. And yeah, there were some very hilarious moments watching Dave judge the contestants. And then the contestants. So these were our 4 teams, and we, you know, all the things that the brand stands for, we tried to make sure came through in our casting. So making sure that we have a diverse group and different personality styles, like diversity, not just in terms of ethnicity, but diversity in terms of personality and personal points of view on the world. And so we're really happy with our 4 teams. They're really, really fun. And episodes are definitely entertaining. And so I think the thing here is, you know, the people can't always be an exact representation of the brand, but they can be representation of the brand values. And so creativity, inclusion, and diversity, and so I think that will come through in the show. In addition to the show, we also launched a Sparked Challenge series program. And so this is an in-game challenge program that anyone who has The Sims can participate in. And we have 3 different ways that you can enter this: stylist, storyteller, or builder. So the next question was, how did we translate a video game to a TV show? And so I actually want to take a moment to talk a bit more about this, because The Sims is really unique here. If I think about past experiences I've had on other brands, story and brand story were really integral in to be able to extend the brand beyond the core category. So for example, when I was on Play School, we launched a boys preschool property called Transformers Rescue Bots. And this was new IP that we created based on well-known Transformers. Now, it wasn't enough to say that this was Transformers made appropriate for younger boys. We really needed that story. We needed to lean into it to make sure that it made sense for the brand. And so what we did was, the storyline was about teaming up with Transformers to save the day. So themes like fire and rescue, and characters like Chase the Police Bot. We included books that told these stories and shared who these characters were in the toys. We partnered with studio to create entertainment. And the reason I'm sharing this example is to show you how traditionally brands have leveraged story to expand beyond their core category. But what's so unique about The Sims, and where other brands can and are evolving towards, is that this isn't a brand story. This isn't a story about Bella Goth or the pancakes or the cowplants. The Sims story is actually a story about our players and their stories. And so we needed to lean harder on our brand values as guardrails for what made this feel on brand. Diversity and inclusion. We all know how important representation is and how it can impact society. Self-expression and creativity. And so we really relied on those to make sure that this felt like The Sims and stayed on brand. And of course, T for teen rated. The other thing we talk a lot about is tone. How commercial will this be? So inevitably, when you create a show or entertainment based on a product, there is always risk that it can be perceived as a long form infomercial. And so that's why it was really important for us to make sure our jumping off point was the players, their stories, and this creative competition. It was not about making sure people knew how to play The Sims or about the number of packs or the number of themes we have in the catalog. We talked a lot about minimizing packaging, logos, and sales messages. And I think that came through because we're not seeing press or social conversation around that. It was really important for us to do this in service of our players and the wider audience. And the continual question we asked ourselves was, is this good entertainment? That is the objective here. Is this good entertainment? And then as it pertains to our audience, we knew that we wanted current Sims fans to watch and like this. We also hoped that non-Sims fans would enjoy this. And so it was this tricky balance of making sure that we were explaining some of the game basics and avoiding insider baseball language so that people who had never played The Sims, had never seen The Sims, never knew anything about The Sims, felt like they could enjoy and watch the show without it feeling like they're excluded. And so, for example, here's an example of how it played out. One of the challenges was a 6-hour challenge. And if you're not a video creator or influencer for The Sims, you may not have realized how tough that was. So what we did was we made sure to ask the contestants in their camera one-on-ones about the challenge. And then we included a clip of a contestant direct to camera talking about what a big deal that was and how she didn't even know if you could do this in 6 hours. So there was context for the non-player about how difficult this was. And so those are the things I would say to think about. You know, how commercial does it need to be? What is the story or brand IP or brand essence, even in our case, that you needed to lean on? And then who is the audience? Is it new player? Is it new audience? Or is it you know, deepening engagement with your core audience? Advice for developers, publishers, IP holders on how they can identify opportunities like this. Advice to film companies as to what they should look for when it comes to adapted video games and why there's big potential. There's a lot of questions. Okay, so I'm a big believer in insights-based development, from products to entertainment to campaigns. And there are many ways at this, and we all know that implementing insights is an art and a science. But here are a few things I can offer up for how to think about this and questions to ask yourself. 1, is your story strong enough? Is it well known enough? Is it relatable enough to branch into another category? And if not, what do you need to do to build that? Is it a relaunch story of for today's audience? Do you need to add characters that represent the modern world? Do you need to expand for further representation? Hint, the answer is always yes on the representation ask. And then looking at UGC social conversation as a proof of market demand. So when you're looking at content or products that people are creating around your brand, from Etsy to YouTube to social channels, where are the spaces that they're ideating in and selling in or creating in? Because brands can't always fulfill market demand for everything. Consumers will create it on their own, especially as we continue to evolve further into co-creation with brands and consumers. And so, you know, every generation is adopting technology younger and interacting with brands more. 10 years ago, co-creating with brands wasn't really a thing people talked about on social channels, and now it's fully expected from consumers. Kids are even using the word brand and understand the meaning of it fully. So it's a really interesting time to be thinking about media and entertainment and UGC and how brands can use entertainment to build connections in their communities or fan channels. Why video games? Video games are the most interactive media that you cannot buy. They were ahead of their time in delivering co-creation. So when you play a video game, you're co-creating your story and experience with a brand. It's why we remember so much about the video games we played as kids. They're interactive. Couple that with this generation of parents who definitely have high nostalgia for the brand. We've already seen 80s and 90s resurgence of brands. And they're dealing with their kids on social media that's highly uncurated. You know, parents are literally telling their kids to go play video games instead of being on the internet because there's so much out there that they cannot control or protect their kids from. And so I do think there's huge opportunity. I personally was very excited about Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out. If you played Sonic on Sega Genesis and you wanted to share that with your kids, this was a perfect way to do it. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity out there. What advice would I give to a TV or production studio looking to develop entertainment around video games? I would say to think about how your show concept could be half of a wheel with a game, so that people play the game and the game drives to the show, and vice versa. The show drives to the game. And I think there's more longevity in that approach versus it being a moment in time. And you know, it's really filling out the other half of the ecosystem for a consumer. And then look at UGC. What content is already out there? What do players watch and think about? Think about that as in-market proof of concept. The other thing is think about audiences and be clear about the audience you have in mind when pitching show concepts. I say this a lot: market to everyone, sell to no one. Know who the audience is for a particular thing. Of course, there can always be a primary and secondary audience, but in creative development, it's typically best it is always best to know who your audience is. And so is this a new audience that you think makes sense for the brand, the IP, the property? Or is this about fandom and really about deepening engagement with current players? The other thing I would say is absolutely nail the elevator pitch, because right now there's a lot of industries looking to integrate with video games. And so you need to break through from the clutter. I do also think there's a big opportunity for interactive and immersive entertainment with new technologies, especially as we're stuck at home and craving connection. We know the stories are a really great way to do that. And I think we're in a time of evolution on storytelling. You know, it used to be about the brand story, and now it's really about people's stories and how can brands either insert themselves into those or be the platforms for people to tell their personal stories. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see what comes next. And that is it. This is The Sims Sparked. So thank you very much. If you are watching this at the scheduled time, it's 3 a.m. in California, which is why this is pre-recorded, because hopefully I'm sleeping. But I'm happy to do follow-up questions by email. And thank you to GamesIndustry.biz for hosting me. I wish you all health and happiness, and have a great day.